Hello and welcome to the episode about starting your own tech business. Whether you're an MSP or a vendor, we are all entrepreneurs and we have a lot of the same challenges, maybe some unique, but we got Kevin here to kind of talk us through some of that. Kevin, I've been promoting this for at least 2 weeks now, and I've said your last name live on air without ever asking you how to say it. And after I say, I'll just do it live on air one more time. Why not? Duckwitz. And after I say it every time, I'm like, I know that's not right. I'll ask him before I get him live on air with me, and I never did.
No, that's not bad. So, and believe me, I do not know much about my Polish heritage, but apparently it is okay to do Dutkowitz or Dukevich, depending on where in Poland you're from. I have heard both pronunciations. So as far as I'm concerned, they're both actually right. Now, the fun one is I get the Dutkiewicz or like, oh, I've heard it butchered a billion different ways, and I don't care. It's
The,
fine. It is a not normal last name, a very normal Polish last name, but not
hey,
everyone knows
I
that.
got I got Polish in me. I got the ski at the end. Maybe that's why I got lucky with my guess enunciation. Well, the actual question here is your last name being difficult a pro or a con when prospecting new business?
So, oh, that's a fun. So, I use that as a little bit of a segue. Like, I joke about it. I try and give a little bit of history, so that way, like, I'm telling like I've heard it all before, and that actually is a very nice icebreaker into a conversation. So it's actually working out pretty good. And I just
And I know
laugh at some of the pronunciations, like, "Wow, that's a new one."
and I know you got some other icebreakers we'll talk about with maybe a little innovative business card. But before we get into the episode, let's go ahead and pop over my screen share. We'll do a little housekeeping. So the next event Sention is going to be speaking at is going to be over at CornCon in Davenport, Iowa. Really looking forward to getting out there. And we'll be with our friends Joshua Copeland and Erica Eakins. Very excited. Outside of that, we do have our weekly webinar series where we do introduce 10 to 12 GPOs per week. Next week's guest is James Beerley of Secure Point Solutions. Looking forward to that one. We'll be talking about typo squatting. That was a fun episode to prep for. And just like this episode and all the other ones, you can head over to Sention.co, and we have all of the previous episodes already linked into the website. And we do write up blogs of the post episode as well. So there you go. And if you wanted to check us out, you can hit this login button right here. You can make a free Sension account and check out our freemium. Freemium will provide you access to see all of the settings and see where they cross map against your most beloved regulatory frameworks. And better than that, you can click into any of these settings and you can see exactly what they are, the machine key, everything else, but especially why they fit into the other regulatory frameworks. So all these mappings come to you free. And if you wanted to take advantage of our webinar promotion, you can get some free assessments and see where you currently sit against CIS and those other frameworks we just talked about. So all of that's free if you just submit with the settings webinar promo. And if you really want to take Sension for the full ride, we do perform remediation against workstations, servers, and browsers to, again, the CIS standards. So this is well over 1,000 different settings. All right, that's the Sension plug. Let's get into why the people are here with starting a tech business. All right, Kevin, let's hop right into it, man. Look, give me a little background. You started as a technician, you moved up to director, and now you are going to become a business leader with your own shop. And honestly, let's pull up this first slide while you introduce yourself more.
Cool. So yeah, I've been in the tech industry for 3 decades now, 30 years. August was the 30-year mark. 14 years old. Do the math how old I am. I got the balls to go up to a business owner for a very small computer shop and like, hey, I like doing this stuff. Do you need help? And that really was that nail in the coffin of what happened. Not nail in the coffin,
Was
like
this
the
just like a
start.
storefront door? You just went up and
Well, I had known the owners. We had purchased some equipment from them for a number of years, And like I really started playing with that stuff as a hobby. I learned how to fix them. Oh my god, you can I still remember some of the old high mem sys and auto exec bat and configs, like all of that crazy stuff you had to do back in the DOS days. Like I taught myself all of that stuff, playing with BBSs and operating systems, and oh my god, it was so much fun. And
Makes sense why you might appreciate what Sension does. One of the few people that really gets excited by when I talk configs is you right here.
yep. So yeah, that's how I started. And throughout my entire career, I've never actually had a job outside of tech. Worked at the computer shop through high school. I have a computer science engineering degree, engineering technology degree, and that one I took. I still work tech over in college. Moved over to a manufacturing company. I'm in the greater Cleveland area, so big Rust Belt, a lot of manufacturing in this area. And in 2010, that's when I actually moved to the MSP space. And I can remember our client list back then was maybe a dozen clients or something, like really, really, really tiny place. And when I left, if I remember correctly, we were somewhere around 4 million
A
ARR,
little bit
something like
more
that.
than a dozen customers.
Yeah, from a dozen customers to 100 something customers with just 23 or 24 employees, something like that. And it was just me, sales guy, and the owner in the beginning. So I really, really took that far. And
Well,
I was the lead tech director. I mean, God, every hat I wore over there. Um, Really set me up for success. Went to another vendor here in the channel. Was their CTO for about a year, and through life changes and everything else, we parted ways and started a business. This is
that's
actually
awesome.
uh, a little bit of a safety net for myself over the years. I've done some amount of like consulting on the side and stuff like that. And at some point, I realized, oh, I should probably like protect myself financially and legally from like any mistakes that may or may not happen. And the business was born, and here I am.
I mean, you talked about two things I want to go a little bit deeper on. So, one, I would just love to hear the trend you're seeing being in 2010 and seeing that, what is that, like, I don't know, 5x growth in 4 years of that MSP. Maybe it's more. But regarding in that atmosphere, today's atmosphere, is the MSP need growing exponentially still? Is it steadying out? Is it declining? Any trend you're seeing on growth or not growth in the MSP market?
So we definitely need more good MSPs. When I started, the majority of the places out there were your break fix shop, and nothing against that at all. I mean, there is absolutely a place for that. But the difference with the MSP is we're here to help you as a business owner. My current pitch is the I'm not here to keep the blinking lights blinking. Anyone can do that. Anyone with halfway decent Google searches can look up an error, come up with a solution, and implement it. That's not tough. The thing that more businesses doing, and unfortunately the trend I'm seeing is a lot of MSPs are focusing on the larger side of SMB. So 25 seats, some minimums like $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month MRR. And it's like, well, what happens to the small places, the other direction? Most MSPs are ignoring that. So I'm actually focusing on that smaller side, because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's a little CPA firm or a small doctor's office. They still need to apply to the same regulations, the same compliance, the same best cybersecurity practices, and they need to be able to talk to someone like, "Hey, I need to change my ERP system." Break fix shop doesn't care. All
Yep.
they want to see any ERP system break, because that's how they make their money. My goal is to make sure that the implementation works. It fits the business. All the technology is there to help it grow.
Yep.
That's
I
where
think
we should be. And thankfully, a good number of break fix shops have changed over to that MSP model, which is actually a really good thing for the overall industry.
Yeah, and I was just talking with Luis Geraldo from ScalePad last week on this. That even break fix MSPs or MSPs who are already doing the MRR model, we all need to elevate to have almost a commodity offering as a minimum baseline. And then the good MSPs, I heard you use the good, right? We can define that. That might be too long to define, but whatever good means to you, you need to understand, what is that ERP process or that ERP technology isn't part of my stack. I've never worked with it. But once you get them to your security baseline, your commodity level, you can then take the next step to learn about their unique applications, making sure they're configured correctly, they're set up for success, right? Because that is not something you can commoditize unless you have a very dedicated vertical, everyone uses the same tech. But that's where you can really differentiate from break fix, MRR to good MRR, right?
Yep.
So the other piece you mentioned here, again, this journey from technician, business leader to entrepreneur, you said fail safe planning. This is, I mean, that was vulnerable right there. I mean, me as well, especially my generation, we jump from job to job, right? Being an entrepreneur, we've gone, those months without a paycheck, how it goes, that fail safe planning. Can you explain a little bit more what that means? Because there's a lot of MSPs out there and a lot of them who, hey, I'm going to take this security stack and I'm going to launch my own business and I'm going to be super successful in 3 months, right? Probably not how it works. So explain to us a little bit more why this fail safe planning was still in the back of your mind, even with a well paying job and a consistent line of revenue.
Um, so yeah, I started this as a like I like my house, I like my cars, I like my cabin. I'd rather not lose those because of some stupid mistake. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's someone who's like, oh, I'm gonna go grab XYZ security vendor and just market the hell out of that, and that'll be my success story. I'm sure people have done that,
Sure.
um, but that is the exception, and that's not the rule. Um, the part I'm finding I've actually have successfully converted over the break fix shops that I've done business with into recurring clients, which is
Wow.
great. Um, and now it's the fun part of, oh, well, that's tapped out. Now I have to start learning how to market. I have to start learning how to do sales. And I've been exposed to all that stuff over the years. And like I know the general process, but it's still a lot of work. And it's one where you can't expect like throw an email out and you're gonna
Yep.
uh, instantly be guaranteed this new client with thousands of no, that doesn't happen.
Yep.
um,
Yep.
it's a lot of work, and the more I look into the marketing, sales and marketing stuff, it's like, oh, yep, that's stuff I need to work on as a business owner, and I
Doesn't really
recognize it.
get us
So that's
any
the
of
first
us
step, right?
excited, right? Yeah, recognizing, right? That doesn't get any of us excited. I know even for Sensi, again, I want to give the vendor side, the MSP perspective as well, because I'm dealing with this at the same time you are. And something we're experimenting with maybe for even less than a month is simply enough emails, right? Kind of creating an appropriate email campaign because all of my readings, all of the entrepreneurship things I read on Twitter is like, email is still the way, even though everyone's annoyed and I delete all my cold emails. I still need to do it because that's what Twitter says and that's what I guess works. And to be perfectly transparent, live on air, we have made plenty of sales from cold emails. So it's about learning that messaging and learning how to communicate. And as an MSP, just like us, it could be something that runs in the background and takes very little to no maintenance after setup.
Yeah, it's all about casting a big enough net. I mean, when you look at your typical sales funnel, the thing starts huge. You just want to throw in as many potentials as you can. And if they make it to the next stage, oh, they're a little bit better. Like I can actually start engaging with these people and figure out if we're a good match. Then that gets even smaller. Like, oh, now that we've gotten a match, now I can do a proposal. Now I can give the proposal. It's you got to start big. It's all about percentages.
Yep.
When I was at the MSP working with our marketing director there, man, I think our conversion rate was 1 or 2%. I know it was less than 2%. It was like 1 point something.
Yep.
So you throw out 1,000 emails. Hey, look, maybe one or two, or what? That's 10. Would actually you could talk to, and of that, could you actually
Yep.
convert any of them?
Yep. And I mean, this is what we're talking about with marketing, getting your brand known. And we have some slides where we'll talk about that. But I mean, kind of just outlining some points here, right? It's this marketing aspect, this business owner aspect. When you were a technician, you probably built a lot of scripts, and then as a manager and a CTO, delegated a lot of scripts. This business side is it's not technical. This is the other half, right? You can't just carry over your scripts and now have an email campaign, now have a brand image, now have the Tech Brews logo, right? Maybe you can, do a GPT prompt, but this takes a lot more work, right? So tell us a little bit. How are you managing your time from, being multiple layers away from entrepreneurship and being multiple layers away from this marketing? Like, are you going through trainings? Are you talking to peers more? How are you making this transition in the regard to time?
I am definitely spending way more time just interacting with people. I have reached out to a number of sales and marketing vendors here in the MSP space. Get an idea of what's out there, what can I use, what would fit with my model. The other side of it is I am spending a decent amount of time on local contacts, like
Okay.
places I've never dealt with. So where I live, there is a decently sized chamber of commerce. Really gotten to know those folks there. I actually got my business insurance signed off earlier this week through one of the places at the Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
Um, so it's a great way just to get to know people. And you're right, get that leaves me less time to set up things like fine tuning my PSA, fine tuning or getting an RMM platform up to a spot where I want it,
Yeah.
and still fixing things. I've got a client that's been trying to purchase the NPO licensing from Microsoft for like 2 weeks now. Some of it's a little bit of time constraints on their side. Some of it's like, oh, sorry, I can't help you right now, but I'll get to you as soon as I can.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a whole bunch of just more things added to the pot and having
A
to
lot
deal
of
with them.
communication, right? You're
Oh
you're
yeah.
expressing to the client, you're reaching out to peers, and we'll get into kind of how you're leveraging maybe some of those vendor relationships, maybe to do stuff like this too, right? Having those friendly vendors who you know well and can ask. So, kind of the last piece I really want to emphasize for those, there's a lot of engineers, MSP engineers who go and launch their own shop. So, being that leader or being a technician, you just mentioned this, right? My RMM isn't exactly where I want it to be. I want to tweak my system, right? How, as an engineer, where your mindset is typically perfection, this has to be top notch, this is where I need to be, how do you mentally draw the line? Like, where is good enough? Or are you still trying to do perfection?
Oh God, no! Don't go after perfection. Perfection impedes progress. Like, don't do it. And one of the guys I used to work under me. I mean, we're still great friends. We hang out all the time. Um, he would definitely not publish something like, "Dude, I just need something. Give it to me." Um, And I find myself I made that commitment some number of years ago that don't shoot for perfection. Let's get an MVP out there, so your
Yep.
minimal viable product, and then just roadmap out what you want this thing to look like. That is the sane way to handle it. If you put everything you want in the beginning, you will never finish. And when we see this with
Yep.
a lot of your, AAA and quad A games that come out, like computer games, video games as a whole, like, yeah, you're annoyed. You have this less than fully baked product hitting the market. But if you
Yep.
waited for them to actually push a completely full thing, you would never see it.
Yep.
And that's the kind of approach that I'm taking. Like the way I've put together my products, my stack for my clients, it's one where is it perfect? No. Like I could do a billion things better, but it meets all of my basic requirements. And I've
Yep.
made sure to at least commit that far. And I've set out some rough timelines of, okay, this is good. This is how I can do better. So in 6 months, I need to start evaluating this thing and maybe move over there. Or I want to start making this change in 3 months. In a year, I may not use that platform anymore because it just doesn't fit or it's not where I want to be my end game.
Sure.
And just coming to terms with that it's huge. Like you can't understate that enough.
That's awesome to hear, and definitely want to emphasize that to any engineer listening. And even if you're a vendor entrepreneur like myself, right? We wanted to have our MVP have everything. For one, we didn't know what everything was, right? We needed to get to market to figure out what the Kevins wanted, what whoever wanted, right? We couldn't know everything, and that's the benefit of getting something out there early. Now, again, in our space, security, our brand is everything. So getting something too early can unfortunately ruin everything to where you can't come back. So you do need to find that balance. Would you say MSP is similar? Like if an MSP suffers, a B word or has an incident, right? If they do that early in their career, is there from a vendor perspective, I don't think there's recovery from my point of view, right? If we get popped early, people won't take you seriously. MSP's perspective, is that as critical or it
So
obviously matters?
yeah, it definitely matters. Like, let's see, last couple years, I'm gonna say within the last 5 years, I've heard of a couple major MSPs in my area who were breached. One of them, she ended up not working for a week and a half while her place was literally rebuilding everything from scratch. That MSP got popped really bad. All the backups gone, all the
Oh,
documentation gone. RMM was used to drop some kind of payload through hundreds of their clients. And as I picked it up on the news, and I picked it up from my friend who actually worked at one of those clients. Um, that MSP, I'm from what my friend was saying, is lost a good amount of business.
yeah,
All of it? No. Now there is a certain amount of, as you start building relationships with your clients, um, that communication part is so key. Being very transparent, telling people we had this issue, this is how we think it happened, we're working on confirming it, these are the plans we put in place, blah 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 blah, whatever your narrative comes out to.
sure.
Just being so transparent and communicating actually will help maintain a lot of those clients. The ones that leave because, oh God, you had one breach, you probably didn't want them anyway. It's one of those where they probably just view the MSP more as a commodity and they'll just jump ship
As
to
a
the next
cost
one.
item.
Yeah, they're just another line item to write a check to. And do I really even want that one to begin with? I mean, the money is nice, but yeah, you probably weren't a good fit anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a lot of it just comes down to just communicate, over communicate.
I don't think anyone's got in trouble for communicating too much. And yeah, talking about that ideal customer profile, right? ICP is kind of the verbiage there. So, when you're starting out, you will want to accept any partner, right? And Sention's the same way. We wanted everyone, right? If you had $1, we wanted to make a sale, right? That's part of it. But as you get to mature and as you have a little bit more, I guess, experience and power and full understanding of that ICP, getting to tell someone, hey, you're not a right fit is pretty powerful, and it will save you hours at night because that person who's not a right fit probably would have been the noisiest too. So
Oh,
very,
definitely. Yeah,
very
say we
awesome.
so as I'm looking at my business when I want to take it, I do have my, ideal client. Like I
Yep.
mentioned, smaller side of SMB. I don't really care about the vertical. I've seen and touched damn near every vertical that's out there. So they're all evils that I know and can work with. I do remember working at my other MSP where we took everything we could because both of us like to eat. Um, and
It's
as
important.
time yeah, as time went forward, we definitely got more picky, and that's where, and I understand it. Why some MSPs start going to the, oh, I have to have a minimum $1,000 a month or whatever it is, because at that point it's like, oh, now you're actually worth all my time versus this little dinky $100 a month. Like I'll spend more than that
Yep.
looking at your stuff for 30 minutes. So
Yep. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we don't necessarily have that reoccurring paycheck. We're definitely not hourly, right? So we need to make sure our time is spent in the right way. All right, let's keep this going. So leaving the baggage behind, right? We just talked about going from technician to business leader. Obviously, as a technician and even as a CTO, you have a lot of resources. That MSP you're leaving may have been very successful, right? There's a lot of resources in there that might be able to expedite your startup timeline quite a bit. And a lot of that expediting your timeline could have been stuff you made. Where's the line? Can you take stuff when you leave?
the
Putting you
this
live on
really comes
air.
down, so this isn't a technology problem. This is an HR problem. This is a business problem. The IP, like I cannot tell you the number of documents I created, the workflows, the scripts, the God, all the stuff that I've done over the years, like I still remember how I built them, but I don't actually have the guts of them anymore.
Yep.
And there are some days it's like, oh, I solved that problem 4 years ago with the script. Ah, God, I don't have it anymore. So now the flip side to that is, and yeah, I actually would treat my firewalls the same way with this. Yes, okay, I wrote this thing 4 years ago, and okay, that was really cool. What have I learned since then and how could I do it better? So I'm
Sure.
almost better off rebuilding this thing anyway and better tuning it to what I'm doing now. Um, Now things like client lists and no, I'm not going to take that kind of stuff. Like I
Right.
do have some sense of ethics. I know plenty of people don't. I have seen many salespeople just ship off a export of all of their contacts,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, even technicians who, launch their new business. Wow, I already have one client. Yeah, I wonder where that client came from.
yeah.
It's definitely hard, but like you said, and this is the thing, although we just said it literally 5 minutes ago, there is a commodity aspect to MSPs, right? We all need to get to this basic bar and then it's unique and tailoring after that. Rebuilding from scratch still allows you to begin that tailoring process, because even if the outcome is the same or the output is the same, you may be able to build it faster, better, cleaner. So then maybe your costs go down with increased profit margins, right? It's figuring out that fit. And I mean, even again, that vendor side, as we identified and we launched that MVP a year or so ago, right? We were able to identify, hey, this is the piece people are using, people aren't using it here, and we were able to prioritize our own internal development and clean up some of that MVP code to say, hey, this wasn't even important, let's remove it, let's focus it here, right? So learning and rebuilding from scratch doesn't sound like it's the end of the world. You think it has been helpful? Because I know, again, man of morals, I know you're definitely doing things the right way.
Oh, it definitely has been. And for the last probably 5 or so years, I've had a team of people under me. So I would have the uh, luxury of being able to pawn off stuff. Take, for example, the GDAP, the stuff that's been going on with Microsoft over the last couple of years. I've never actually played around with it prior to a couple of weeks ago. And if you were in any of the MSP Geek channels, as I was ranting about the entire process and how this is confusing and hell, what the hell is wrong with my account? Um, yeah, it's one where, yeah, I have to go learn this now. And I remember doing stuff like it before, but anything you don't use, you lose. So I'm
Yep.
having to like force myself to relearn things, and it's actually a very good thing. It keeps the brain sharp.
I mean, if something needs to be troubleshooted or worked on, right? If you're just reusing something from the old business or something you don't remember how it functioned or how it worked, it's going to be harder to support your customers.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So this last aspect on this slide, balancing life and business. I know you pretty personally at this point. Your wife is also in tech. You got a couple kids, right? This balance for you might be a little different than other people, since you have a lot of the same interests on the technical side as your wife. You have a little bit of an advantage versus some of us. But I know you have a cabin in the woods. I know you also, well, we'll talk about the jerky hen a little bit, but a massive garden. Tell us a little bit, this transition, technician, leadership, entrepreneurship. How have you balanced life throughout this?
So I picked up the cabin. That was, what were those funds that were being handed? The stimulus funds that were handed out a part of the
You saying
COVID.
that live
I
on air where your stimulus checks went?
Yeah, and say my stimulus checks went to buying a cabin in Southeast Ohio.
Don't we have like
So I was doing
80,000 IRS
about
people
earning
coming? Aren't those on the way? You might want to.
money. No, that was all personal. I didn't have the business then, so that was my money. But it's one where I actually really, really love that place. It is so much work to put together because I'm basically building that place up from scratch,
Yeah.
and going completely off grid on it. And I love that kind of stuff. That is my break, even though it's more technology that I'm doing there because I've got this wonderful home assistant. It's all solar powered. I built my own water filtration system. I built my own water
So
pump for
cool.
pressure, and like I have fun doing that. When the clock gets, or towards the end of the day, 4 or 5 o'clock, whatever happens, I honestly just close most of the work stuff and no, this is done. I learned some number of years ago, if I just keep doing all work all the time, you're gonna burn yourself out. And I
Yep.
just made a point to like I'm done. Like, nope, no more work. It can wait another day. And as long as you communicate that to other people, if you like you were working on something, someone's waiting on you, just at least communicate it that you're like, I'll pick this up in the morning. I'll pick this up next week, whatever it is. That usually
Yep.
works out fine. And it actually puts you in a much better mental state. And yeah, I'm headed to my cabin in a couple hours when the kid gets home.
As soon as I'm out of this webinar, I'm hitting. No. No, that's a big thing. And from my perspective, again, early stage vendor, just meeting people for the first time, me getting to have this balance. I also have my own fifth wheel RV, and hopefully by end of year, I've been saying this for 2 years now, we'll be actually moved into it full time. And these stories, these just normal aspects, a lot of the times is my opener to people I've never talked to before, right? It lets other people know, hey, I may be a vendor, but I'm also a human, right? Because, and Mendy's talked about this quite a bit, but there's bad side, good side, right? Is either side really a bad side? We're all entrepreneurs just with a different target market. So very, very much important here. And I'm guessing this LinkedIn user here might be someone by the name of Sarah, if I were to take a guess here. So you're getting a shout out by the wife. It sounds like you are being honest on this webinar, that you are doing the things.
She'll call me out.
She will. I know she will. And, we talked about this personal aspect. Let's go to this next slide here because it's perfecting your business recipe. So I hinted at this with your jerky, right? That third image there is the AI model of what jerky looks like with a handshake above it. So, you know, how have you leveraged these, real life experiences in making new friends, making new sales, right? This technology, as you started, was a hobby. You literally went and knocked on a door, then you matured. Now you have personal hobbies like jerky, garden. All of this goes back to your business, doesn't it?
I'd say it makes for a great conversation. And so, one of the things, and I don't even have it on me. I've got a laser engraver, just a little. I think it's 10-watt laser engraver. It's good for like engraving things, like pieces of wood. I actually made myself my own business card for
That's
people to
cool.
scan. So I took a aluminum blank, put my logo on it, and a QR code over to LinkedIn, and I tell people like, okay, hey, let's connect. Here's my business card. You can just scan it. Well, I'm not going to give it to you because this thing costs a lot of money because it's a sheet of aluminum that I had to make myself. Um, but that's actually a very good conversation starter. It's an icebreaker. People know immediately, like, oh, wait, this dude made this. That's really cool. It's really sharp. How did you do that? Blah 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 blah. It's a great way of introducing people. The beef jerky stuff, like it's actually kind of funny. Um,
This has been like a trade show hit, by the way, for the listeners who haven't seen Kevin at a trade show. Like, people are like, oh, did you bring any garlic this time? Did you bring any this flavor this time? And me, who doesn't really even enjoy jerky, happily eats it because it's delicious.
so it's one where I've been going to conferences for years and years and years, and generally speaking, all the conferences just give out sugar bombs for
Yep.
snacks. Here's a bunch of donuts. Here's a bunch of desserts, and here's a 20-liter of Coke to well wash it down with. Like, oh God, ugh, no, I don't need that much sugar in my life. So I've been making jerky for a very long time, probably 20 years at this point. And I would just make these little batches and bring them along with me. And they would
Yep.
be my snack instead of the sugar bombs.
Yep.
And over the years, like I'd start giving it to people, like, hey, do you want something not a sugar bomb? And yeah, it just kind of grew from there. At some point, like people are like, hey, Kevin, you got any more of that? Yeah, it's in the backpack. Help yourself. And I'll literally walk around. People will just grab me, open my backpack, take out a couple pieces, and be on their way. Um, and this last couple conferences, I actually took orders. Like so many people wanted, I actually put a little Microsoft form together and put together a order.
I didn't
I'm
know
now
this.
known at the butcher as the jerky guy. I could just walk in there and like, hey, here to order some more. Yep, you know it.
That is too
And it's
funny.
been another just great thing to open up with people. And like, I have fun making it. And the fact that people are enjoying it is truly awesome. Yeah, I really like that part of it.
Which business is growing faster, Kevin? MSP or the jerky business?
I am not selling publicly. The FDA would have certain words with me. So
Okay,
I'm
so when
just
we fill out
telling
that
one
form, it's
trend.
free jerky. We don't even have to pay for it. What's in the backpack pocket? Cajun jerky. That's right. Why are all the dogs following you at every show, Kevin?
Right? I've been growing my own peppers. I've got some serrano
That's
peppers and
awesome.
habanero peppers, all nice and dried out. So whatever the next conference I end up going to, I'll be loaded up with some fresh, fresh spicy jerky.
Absolutely amazing. And the thing I really want to call out about this slide, and honestly the last 5 minutes of the conversation, is these are personal things about our lives that make us happy, whether it's going in our RV or it's making jerky, right? Your garden, right? Those are the things that make us happy. And we're taking the things we want to do and incorporating it into our business hustle, right? We're leveraging our hobbies to stand out from the crowd, and that's something MSP and vendor have exactly alike, right? As an owner, I have to share my personal brand with the world, right? That isn't something I did when I was just in like an early stage go to market company, right? When I wasn't an owner, I never took it as seriously, but now having to elevate and be part of the communities and have that brand has been immensely helpful, just from the perspective of gaining customers or funding, whatever path you want to go down, it makes you known, right? So I love how you've integrated that into your business there, Kevin. That's the special thing. And not only that, but you integrated into the vendor world, who you're talking with and who you're working with. So
I can't tell you the number of vendors I've made friends with because some of these shows, man, I feel so bad for some of the vendors because they're there 8 hours. They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. And if they're the only one manning the booth,
yep,
can't even like take a bathroom break. They can't go get a snack. They can't go get a drink. And I've made so many friends. It's like you're stuck there. Here, take this,
yep,
and like they at least got a snack. And hey, do you want water? I'll go grab you a glass of water or something. Like that doesn't cost me anything
yep.
or minimal, and I don't care. And I'm helping a person out, and
And
that's really the thing I want to pass
and
on
that
the
that
most.
that that makes it special for us too. And we can go to this next one here, like don't burn bridges, right? So when you were just a not just, right, just a technician, right? No one's just a technician. That's one of the hardest jobs, I'm sure. But when you are just an employee, we can say that, right? You still had these relationships with vendors. You're the one working with them, and if you treated the vendor like they were just another number, you're a number, they're a number, and everyone's a number, nothing, no relationship matters. When you launched your business, it may have been, I mean, maybe you can tell me here, was it hard to land meetings with these people? Like, you're a small number to them. Are they really going to prioritize you? Have your relationships that you've kept up with actually helped you in launching your MSP?
Absolutely. I cannot thank the MSP vendor community enough. There's been a number of cases where I've reached out to some of the vendors here and like, hey, I'm just starting out. I really want to use your platform, but your monthly minimum is going to destroy me. It is more money than I'm bringing in for the next 3 months. Like, I can't
Yep.
do this. Is there something we can do? And I've worked out something where I'm taking advantage of the great tools that we have available for us, and I don't have the commitments. Now, it's one where I'm also not going to abuse that friendship. And I have straight up said, this is only until I can get myself stable. I want to make sure that at a point where, uh, I have the income coming in and I can pay you what you would normally charge any other MSP. That's
Yep.
where I want to be. I cannot thank you again enough for helping me out in the beginning, but I'm not going to abuse that because at the end of the day, they got to make money too.
Yep.
So it works both ways. And yeah, I actually really, really, really appreciate the help I've gotten from folks.
That's awesome to hear. And I mean, it also it's talking about, we're not just numbers, whether you're a vendor or MSP, right? These are people who want to get off the ground, right? There was a lot of mentors and people who gave me time before Sention even had a revenue, right? What are they getting out of it? Maybe they get to give input on an early stage roadmap. Sure. But realistically, that was time they'll never get back. And they invested into just this random guy who shot a LinkedIn message. So those relationships are absolutely awesome, and it's great to hear the vendors who have given you that support to get off the ground, right? Those do exist. So if you're ever a technician and you think of your vendor as a number, maybe reconsider. Bring that glass of water, and if you bring something to the Sention booth, feel free to make it a beer, no matter the hour. I will happily accept. But the big thing here, networking or not working, right? You're talking about networking with vendors, networking with prospects. You're now in the Chamber of Commerce, right? You are always networking. And I hinted a little bit earlier on the last side, personal brand. How has your networking style either increased, changed, or not at all from when you were an employee to now a business owner? Has anything changed?
Um, yeah, a little bit. So if I was just, or when I was just an employee technician, someone just fixing stuff, I'd talk tech. Like that would be what I would do. That was the primary of it. I'm not a sports ball guy, so I couldn't pivot to the hey, how's the sports ball? No, that's not me at all. Um,
You didn't watch Tua get knocked out yesterday? You missed
who?
that? Yeah, no, don't worry about that. Dolphins football talk.
um, as I'm like joining these chamber of commerce events, as I'm doing other networking events, I've kind of changed my like the way I present myself a little bit, where I'm starting to talk with people more of, hey, I'm doing this. I'm here in the IT industry and managed IT, outsourced IT, or whatever you want to call it. I'm here to help you solve problems. I want to talk about what's in your way, what kind of things make you not able to do your business, whatever it is. So there's a little bit of that shift. I still absolutely will talk tech, but it's more of a
Sure.
afterthought than anything, to kind of like you start off with the friendly side and you like, okay, here's the few things I can actually talk about with tech. You might not know what they are, but that's another great thing, another skill to learn, is be able to take some of that tech stuff and translate it into normal people speak, for lack of a better.
Zach
Like,
speak. It's okay. You can call it that.
yeah, I mean, simple little things like your hard drive is filling up and we have to go buy a new one. What's a hard drive? I bought this
Uh,
computer a year ago. How come it doesn't have enough storage? Well, do you know what a hard drive is? It works like this. And I usually use like a
wow.
file cabinet metaphor. Like you bought a file cabinet, you needed a 4 drawer lateral. You bought a little 2 drawer thing that goes under your desk. Like you can't possibly use this, or you're just going to keep buying more of them. How about we
How
just talk about what your actual needs are, and then we could buy the right size cabinet for you. And it's just changing that narrative around a little bit versus, oh, a hard drive is this mechanical device with the spinning platter and these little heads that read the magnetic orientation on the no, God, don't do that. No one cares.
it's interesting. A lot of the and maybe this is a trend, maybe it is a coincidence, you can share your thought, but a lot of the more mature or sizable MSPs who have really look like they're very successful do what you did just right there. They talk in metaphors, right? They do avoid that tech talk. So really quick, like, I don't know, how often do you speak in metaphors? Is this just like constant talk, or is it, try to not overuse metaphors? Do they get exhausting, boring for the listener? Like, how often do you use metaphors?
Yeah, pretty much all the time.
Constantly.
It's one where I try and get to understand what a person's interests are, and I will not spin because that almost has a negative connotation. I will change my
It's
narrative
quite
around a
literally
little
a
bit.
sales
Yeah,
methodology. Is spin selling by Miller Hyman, I think.
yeah, and it's one where I'll try and understand where you're coming from and what your interests are, so that way, like, I can make that connection, so you better understand what I'm trying to say. It's building a better connection, and making sure people get what I'm trying to do. Because yeah, if you just go down the technical road, you're gonna lose people really fast.
Yeah.
But if you talk to someone about, I guess I know how football and all those other sports balls are played, so I can do metaphors there. I just actively ignore everything else that's going on.
Sports metaphors are overused. Do something else. Talk about drawers. All right, this last point, and you've talked a lot about personal, like being almost friends with your customers and friends with your vendors. But when I did the pre-interview with you, you did talk about doing like a welcome letter. I think you actually do like an actual piece of paper mail. Maybe I'm wrong, but setting the ground rules. Like, Is this something you discuss with your client and go into that? But do you also set rules with new vendors? Is that part of it?
Yeah, so I don't do it quite as much now because I was very focused on what I was looking to get when I started. But what I was doing before, where I already had a fully working stack, and we made it a point every year to just reevaluate it. So that would mean actually working with other vendors on like getting to understand what they were. And like one of the first questions I ask, where's your shared responsibility matrix? The overwhelming majority go, huh? What's that? And it's like it's the thing where you oh, never mind. We'll just keep doing your thing. Um, but I do ask the important questions of, how does this work with the PSA? Can I do commits implementations with it? How's your deployment model look like? Are you SOC 2 certified? Not certified because that's technically wrong. SOC 2 accredited. And in what particular realm will your SOC 2
What
accredited?
scope? Yeah, there's the
Yeah,
question no one asks. Yeah,
yeah,
our
that
website's
one's
SOC
important.
2, so we're all SOC 2, right? That counts.
No, it doesn't work like that. Um, the questions of like if and when something like a breach happens on your end, how are you going to communicate that to me? Little things like that. I was definitely more diligent about asking before. Again, I'm just starting out. I knew what I wanted pretty much from the beginning. So, and I already knew the vendors in that space. So it's like, yeah, yeah, you're good. You passed all the checks already. But if I was evaluating someone new, those are definitely questions that I would ask. And I think over time, as I started asking more of those questions, when I would follow back with them, they actually had answers, which was
Yeah.
wonderful. Which all that's doing is just raising the bar across the entire industry, which is what we need.
Yep. I mean, if I, and again, vendor perspective here, if I ever, gain a new partner and they shoot me an email saying, hey, here are the things I like today. Here are the things I wish you did, right? We do have a community roadmap. I don't know if everyone takes advantage of it the way they should. I know some do. Some are constant posters, which are awesome. Those are our favorite, right? We want that feedback because we want to build the thing you want. Like, I know it's good enough today. You're willing to pay X for it today, but I want to make sure you're willing to pay X still a year from now, like making sure we keep up. And honestly, we can kind of show this next slide, right? Relearning, right? Making sure the technology we develop today is valuable in a year from now. As an owner, I have to see into the future, right? That's the only way we're going to succeed is if we can ultimately, I mean, this is just full honesty. Ultimately, if we guess correctly, we're going to be in a damn good spot. So anything I can do to make my guesses more educated or more contextual, that's what I want. So if I ever got that letter from Kevin, like that would be huge, right? Hey, Sention's doing this for me right now. Wish it did this. Let me know when. How can I help? Right? Investing into that relationship, which Kevin does a great job of. So we're happy to be working with him personally. So, we did talk about this relearning, managing, right? So we don't need to hammer this slide too long. And just for the audience, you are starting out. So I don't think you have any employees yet. Is that
Nope.
correct? Right. So, delegation or death, this was something you really emphasized was critical at your previous role as a CTO, right? You had to delegate things because without delegation, you can't keep up on your own. Well, Kevin, it's just you now. So I know you're active in the MSP geek community and you're active on forums and LinkedIn and doing your best. And we talked about this already a little bit, but I mean, anything more you can kind of share about relearning and keeping up with everything now that you're alone? Alone, one is the loneliest number.
Right. Honestly, I've been leveraging the community help so much during this for some of the little technical nuances. Like I have no problem fighting through something, but I would tell my techs this all the time. If you're sitting there spinning your wheels for a half hour, just please stop. Raise your hand and ask for help.
Yep.
And I'm no different. I will spin my wheels on something and if I'm not getting anywhere, I will get up from my desk, walk around, get another drink of water, get a snack, something.
Yep.
Likewise, if I'm running to a super technical issue, again, it's a GDAP. I have not touched the GDAP stuff ever until a
Yep.
couple weeks ago. And it's like, okay, where can I go for this? I reached out to, I'm going through PAX, so help from over there. Put in the actual trouble ticket with Microsoft. Put in, make some posts over in MSB Geek. And it's like, oh, I did not know that. And then I can take that information back and actually do what I'm supposed to. So it actually yes, I'm alone, but I'm alone in a very crowded room where I can
Awesome.
just shout out and say, "Hey, anyone see this? Hey, I need some help with this." And God, the responses back have just been so heartwarming. I This is a great community we are in. I cannot stress that enough, and I'm doing everything I can to give back as well. Especially with my involvement with MSP GeekCon and some of
Yep.
the other fun stuff I'm doing in other communities as well.
And Sarah, if you're still out in the audience, if you can drop that invite link to MSP Geek, drop that in the comments so that people can, get involved with that because that's huge for us too, right? Sension going as a volunteer, right? We weren't sure if we wanted to sponsor a booth because every dollar at the early stage matters, and we didn't want to just toss thousands of dollars at something until we experienced it. And thanks to our friends willing to vouch for us, like, hey, Zach's not just going to go there and sell Sension if he's a volunteer, right? He's going to listen, like, Kevin, you vouched for me, and Kyle and the other guys, thanked me afterwards for being respectful of the rules and, doing my best to become part of it and help. So that type of stuff does go a long way. And that's awesome to hear about the shout out you're giving them and help you in this. Entrepreneurship's lonely, but if you're lonely in a crowded room, at least you can always go to someone. So that's really impactful to the people who don't know about that community. All right, we got about 8 minutes left, a couple more topics to cover. Personal branding, we mentioned this a little bit ago with your unique business card, your unique selling point, mentioning maybe jerky in part of this, and how every MSP really needs to get to this commodity baseline level and then elevating from there, right? Everyone has to have their stack of security, their stack of minimums, but anyone can get to that point. It's those extra steps that personalize it to their unique thing. So, after you have this first meeting, or how do you resonate with the prospect? We'll talk about prospects specifically in your go to market growth. So not vendor side, but when you have that first round meeting, how do you make sure they remember you after that? Do you do just a ton of
Uh,
follow ups, or you're just that impactful with the business card and the jerky?
say the follow ups definitely help with that one. So, after you exchange the business cards and just go back to LinkedIn or whatever it is and say, "Hey, it was great to meet you. We'll have to get to know more about your business, or if you want to learn more about what I do, let's set up a time and talk." Simple little things like that actually go a long way. Um, I mean, from the marketing side, that's honestly where a lot of your drip campaigns actually work. You don't even have to put anything that meaningful in it. And I had this revelation a couple of weeks ago. Like, I'm probably just going to put a little newsletter out that'll go out maybe once or twice a month. And yeah, I'm really corny. I was just going to call it like "What's Brewing," just play on the company name. Yeah, that's how creative I am.
Hey man, I like the tech brews because I leaned towards, oh, he's talking about beer, but then the logo's like, oh no, he's professional. He's talking about coffee. I see the coffee steam. Like, totally twisted it. I knew what you maybe were thinking of, but made it professional with the little coffee mug. So kudos there on the creativity.
Um, so yeah, just I want to do that as a, oh, this guy just isn't, again, not just keeping the blinking lights blinking. I'm actually here providing value, and I want to just kick back a little of, hey, this is what I've been doing in the background. So that
Yep.
way I have this recurring, like, here's how I'm providing value to people. I may or may not extend a version of that to an outside, like email blast to
Sure.
places. I haven't gotten that far because that costs money, and I
That's
don't have
fair.
that yet. I need money to make money.
You're talking to the choir, man. That's
Yep.
early stage, right? You got to prioritize every dollar and talking to your vendors, being vulnerable and saying, "Hey, like, give me that 3 month startup package." Like that's stuff you can do today. And for vendors, hey, I want to go to your show. I'm not sure if it's the right fit. Can I just go as an attendee? Like, can I just check it out before doing anything? And in the case of MSP Geek, like, I'm happy to volunteer, right? I know you need help, right? This is a big show hosted by the community. So, really leveraging that vulnerability, your personal brand, right? If no one in that community knew me, right? If I didn't have Kevin vouching for me, if I didn't have Ray or Jack or anyone else vouching for me, I never would have had a chance. And let alone that, if I didn't have a LinkedIn presence or an active voice in the community, my chances would have been even lower, even with people vouching for me. So the combination of all of these things as a business owner or even as a technician, right? Having your personal brand is huge because you need that fail safe plan, right? You never know when that worst day is going to come, and having that in the back of your mind just ready to go, that can expedite that process, that grieving process, if it was bad terms, or that empowerment service mindset if it's good terms, right? You just need to leverage what you have.
Yep.
So awesome. Well, let's get into this last slide here, right? The road to success. This is where we all want to be, whether your goal is to sell your MSP or take your MSP to the multi-million dollar level and make this a family company, right? It's not paved. You're going to have to cut the weeds. You're going to have to pave the concrete. Like, you're going to have to, beginning to end starts with you as the owner. Hopefully, in a lot of MSPs, maybe there's a co-founder, or if you're crazy like Kevin, you're going to take it all by yourself, right? There is value to both aspects, right? Obviously, one aspect is all of it's on you. The other one, you get some accountability, you know. So tell us about this. What is tech? I mean, maybe I hope I put you on the spot in a good way. What is Tech Brew's value prop right here, Kevin? You know, you are the owner. You're taking a MSP to market. Something that we just talked about is, to an extent, there are commodity MSPs out there. How is your value prop different? How are you differentiating from the 40,000 MSPs out there?
Like I said, I'm trying to swing more towards the smaller side, which
Right.
largely is ignored or it falls into the realm of the break fix shops. And again, nothing against either of those. It absolutely makes sense. It's a big sea, though. It's a bigger ocean. So
Yep.
there's a lot of opportunities out there. So I don't feel bad about targeting a smaller slice of the market. Am I going to retire rich off of it? Probably not. But it's one where I'm still equally my personal, like, what's the best way to put this? Like, my empathy bucket, like, I understand what it is, and over the course of building this business, if I can help more small businesses just get over some of those hurdles that IT presents, um, I'm happy with that,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of our economy is driven by very small businesses, a lot of them. And if a majority of them start falling away because they have no idea what a PCI scan is, they have no idea what the vulnerability scan they have to do every year, they just check a box. Like,
Yeah.
no, that doesn't help anyone. Please don't do that. Um, and like, I feel like, yeah, if I could sell this thing off at some point, I don't know who would really want it, because this is gonna be a bunch of very small clients. Um, I mean, my goal is, I honestly would love to get out of tech in the next probably 10 years or so. I've been doing this for, like I said, 30 years, and it's like, I've had enough of it. And I'll let the next generation go, which is part of why I'm really putting more energy into the community side of stuff. I can help that next generation of, how this is how we build a community. This is how we interact. These are the things that you can do, because I can pass that kind of information on. I'm not going to pass, like, here's how you edit autoexec.bat to optimize your boot up on a Windows 3.1 system. Like, who the hell needs that anymore?
People
But
still
like,
need to disable SMB1 though. Feel free to shout that out. We could still educate on that.
yes, that one, yeah. Oh God, there's systems I worked on that were pre SMB1. Jesus, those were horrible. Ugh. Um, but yes, in any event, yeah, I'm definitely trying to build that side, and if I get some amount of money while I'm doing it, I'm okay with that. As long as I can eat, keep dry, have clean clothes, like, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
If it grows into something bigger, that would be awesome. That would just empower me to help the different communities I'm in even more.
That's awesome. And in these communities too, you are communicating to those early vendors. You communicate with Sention, right? We wouldn't be as good of a product market fit without the input from people like you. So very much agree with that sentiment. Community is huge. And let's go ahead and just hop over to this wrap up here, Kevin. I'll give you a shout out what you're doing with Empath here, but any just closing thoughts or just takeaways for the entrepreneurs listening to this webinar, or anything you want to say to your clients, or whatever you want, man. Next minute's yours.
um, I would say the biggest thing is, it's okay to fail. Actually, I just took a picture of it a little bit ago. I designed this little pen holder for my new laptop, and there's literally a pile of ones that did not work. And I'm taking that same approach as how I'm building my business out. Like, I know what's working, I know what's failing, and you know what? It's okay. It, let some stuff fail. You're going to learn more as a byproduct of that, and you're going to end up with something better at the
Yep.
end of it. It's going to take a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of frustration. There's going to be a lot of imposter syndrome. Oh my God, the imposter syndrome. Like, what the hell am I doing here? Um,
Why am I leading this conversation in the community? There's no way I know this the best.
and I say that up front. Again, going back to communication, I will flat out tell people, like during my Home Assistant talk at MSP GeekCon, I am not an expert on Home Assistant. I am not an expert at how to troubleshoot things. Here's my story, and I want to tell you my story. And if it helps you, then we both win. And that's all we could ever look for or hope for.
That's awesome to hear. Now, huge champions community, and let's go ahead and make this wrap up slide full screen so we can have the audience read about the upcoming event. So, the things coming up on Sention side, we do have a webinar coming out with Ninja next week. Very excited. Thankful to actually, well, Kyle Spooner, MSP Geek, talking about that. That's where I got to meet him in person for the first time. So, he's switched over to the Ninja side. Him and Jonathan Crow are there. We'll be doing a webinar kind of introing CIS and NIST at a high level. And we're going to make that into a multi-part series, diving deeper and deeper into hardening and the priorities, right? You can't, no point in talking about hardening if you don't know what frameworks are, right? You're just hardening by gut instinct today. Consider a framework. We'll talk about that next week with Ninja. We do have that webinar series where we talk about 10 to 12 GPOs with James Beerley next week. Then we got Caffeine and Circuits, a Tech Brews event going on with Empath. You want to give us a quick 20 seconds on that? What is that? A lunch and learn, you saying?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a lunch and learn. This is so this first episode here. It's going to be a half hour on the 24th at noon, if I remember right. So right there at lunch for at least the East Coast where I'm at. Um, and it's one where I want to go a little bit of down a little bit of a technical deep dive. This first episode is going to be on VLANing, so we know what it is, what you could do with it, why you would do it, and then I also do want to put that little bit of a spin on from the business side. Why does it make sense to do this? From a security side, why does it make sense to do it? Because it's great to understand all the tech, but if that's all you know, you're not going to be able to fully use it. And this is one where, again, I wanted to start teaching people, like, these are the things you can pay attention to, these are the different routes you can go, and other things to consider as you're doing your implementation.
Yep. And if you don't know what Empath is, Sention's also working with them to create educational tracks on how to secure RDP with settings, what is hardening. So they're really building this community of education, formal education, where you can modularize, hold people accountable, and they're doing really good things. That's Wes Spencer and a few others out there. Just hung out with them at Can IT Con, so very, very much excited for them. And after that, we do have the next episode of our webinar series on the CIS benchmarks, and I'll be speaking at CornCon to close or kick off October, rather. But if you wanted to check out Sention, CIS hardening, you can use that link there, input settings webinar, and you'll get 100 free assessments, internal, external, it doesn't matter. Just let us know you watch the webinar. That's how we build the community, and that's how we grow. So Kevin, drop your LinkedIn into the chat, do that. And if there's any ways to get in touch with Tech Brews, I encourage you to do that as well. But thank you, everyone. Kevin, incredible guest.